a journey right across the world. We're in search of the people and the businesses finding solutions to the major challenges we're all facing over the coming decades. So welcome to Horizons. Billions of people on the planet and a huge waste problem. We call it sanitation, and it is arguably one of the biggest public health issues facing the world today. Across the globe, 2.5 billion people, including 1 billion children, do not have access to a clean, safe toilet. Every 20 seconds, a child dies as a result of poor sanitation. That's 1.5 million preventable deaths each year. When it comes to human waste, up to now we have literally flushed it away to be dealt with out of sight and out of mind. But we forget that human waste is also filled with valuable nutrients, and it might just be time for the humble lavatory to take centre stage. Sanitation has become one of the most pressing issues today, attracting the attention of global thinkers like Bill and Melinda Gates, whose philanthropic foundation has committed hundreds of millions of dollars in funding new initiatives. I've travelled to New York to meet Dr. Dulai Kone, the man in charge of the foundation's sanitation program, to discuss how new technologies are changing the way we deal with human waste. First of all, I want to understand why people like you, why people like the Gates Foundation, why scientists are so interested in this subject.
If you don't have a toilet, like billions of people in Africa, in Asia, in most developing countries, human waste end up just spreading into communities. It carries disease, and this is killing millions of people every year simply because of lack of control. Right. Of human waste into the environment.
In a sense, it's just intuitive to say that's clearly unhealthy and must lead to disease. But have you been able to quantify it and go what diseases are created by that waste problem and how many people are dying as a result of that?
Yeah, diarrhea is one of the diseases which is very common in several poor communities. You take a disease like cholera, for example. So you had a lot of news about this. Unfortunately, cholera is carried by human waste, by feces, and this is becoming endemic, unfortunately, in several urban settings nowadays. It's completely preventable, but it's settling as an endemic disease today in cities, in urban areas.
I mean, you raise the urban issue. Yeah. It's important, isn't it, because the world is urbanizing, especially in the developing world, and that's bringing together a lot of people who all have to go to the toilet, and overflowing, and sometimes probably literally, the infrastructure that is there. So there's a problem presumably that's getting worse with development.
The problem are becoming more and more very complex and very challenging in urban areas where you have densely population living together without proper access to toilet. People have to rely on going outside to defecate. Yeah. Or use toilets which are really unhygienic.
It seems to me what you're saying is this is actually about appropriate technology. The system that applies in much of the developed, the richer world, is just perhaps the wrong system for much of the developing world in Africa and Asia.
Today, I would say it's the wrong solution for both developed and developing countries.
So it's not about, you think it's the wrong system even here in New York?
It's the wrong system because I'm telling you, look at the amount of energy it would need to put this huge infrastructure in place. So it's not only the toilet that you have in your home. Right. It's the huge industry which goes beneath your home or beneath the buildings. This huge pipeline laid underground, miles of large and small combination, and the huge processing plant. Not every city can afford this today. Sanitation and how we deal with human waste is a huge problem, especially in many of the emerging economies, which often have unplanned, sprawling cities.
In Asia, many countries don't have wastewater treatment centres, and it's said that in India, some children drop out of school because they don't have access to clean, modern toilet facilities. In Delhi, Rajini Vaidyanathan has been finding out how one simple solution is already bringing better sanitation to an estimated 10 million people a day.
Less than half of India's population has access to an indoor toilet. In fact, more people in the country own a mobile phone. With very few public lavatories, many people are forced to go in the open. That has huge health consequences, particularly for women and children. Over the years, there's been very little interest or investment in the sector. But one man is using innovation to try and change that. Dr. 27Oct13 is an internationally recognised sanitation pioneer and founder of SulabInternational, the largest non-profit organisation in India. So what's access to toilets like today?
Even today, 70% people in the rural areas have no access to safe and hygienic toilets. They go for defecation open. And urban areas, still 23% people, they don't have these facilities.
What's the problems that people then are at risk at if they're going, to the toilet in the open?
It causes 50 diseases. Most important is the cholera, diarrhea, dysentery, sometimes epidemics also, hookworm, roundworm.
And that's because fecal matter is just left in the open, in the sun. Yes. To overcome the problem of providing sanitation in areas without access to a sewage system, Dr. 27Oct13 invented a simple toilet using 2 pits dug into the ground, connected to a traditional squat lavatory, which reduces water use and needs no chemicals to treat it. Right, so you do that to clean. So it comes down this pipe here. Costing as little as $15 to build, the twin pit system uses just 1.5 litres of water per flush, compared with a conventional flush toilet, which uses around 12. Now, what happens next?
Now here is the sea, is a bottom.
Explain this pit to us then.
And then this is the soil, there's no concrete.
So there's a soil bottom?
Yes.
So what about the holes that are around the wall? What are they for?
The holes and the bottom both have function that they absorb water and the gases.
The pits are used alternately. When one is full, the excreta is diverted into the second pit. OK, so basically the human feces mixed with the water becomes part of the soil over time?
Yes, it decomposes.
It decomposes,
because there are bacteria in the soil.
Over the time, the sludge is digested using already present anaerobic bacteria and creates almost dry, pathogen-free, safe manure, which can be used as fertiliser. How many have you got of these across India? How does it all work now?
We have installed about 1.3 million toilets like this. 1.3
million?
Yes.
That's incredible. So most places that we would go to in India, we could see these in most cities, if not all. OK, so we can go and have a look at that now. Let's go and see. As well as installations funded by the government, Sulab's built more than 7,500 public toilet complexes, which it's funded by charging users a small fee. So, Gaurav, this is one of the 2-pit toilets in action.
Yeah.
It's at a temple.
By chance, this today has the time to get clean, so you will be able to see that there is no smell, there is no pathogen, no bacteria is coming out.
I'm a bit nervous about seeing what's underneath there. But we've got some gentlemen who are going to come and help us have a look. All right, this is the moment of truth, Gaurav.
No, you stand close and smell it up. Don't worry, you only have cockroaches in here. Big ones. So you can see there is no smell inside, See?
Can I?
Yeah.
I test this?
Yes.
No, there is no smell, to be fair.
No, the bacteria has died out. The pathogens have died out, so there's no problem in touching them. Now, the only thing what you do is that you keep it up, keep it outside into the sun or maybe open air for one day. Then those people who are taking care of the plants, who are, growing plants, they will come and they will
And it's probably the finest manure you can get?
No, the best manure, organic manure in the world.
Wow. OK, that is incredible science, isn't it? And it is really simple. You've got human waste coming down the toilet, sits here for a couple of years, and it becomes this. Recent developments also allow the methane gases to be harvested during the digesting process and used as a fuel for lighting and cooking. It may be difficult for many people to comprehend, but billions of people around the world still don't have access to any form of sophisticated sanitation. But it's cheap and simple solutions which deal with human waste at source, such as this two-pit toilet, which can really make a difference, particularly in countries like here in India, where there's little or no clean water and limited access to sewerage systems. But the biggest challenge is the sheer scale of it. You need a lot more of these to really make a difference.
Simple sanitation technologies, which don't rely on expensive infrastructure, offer huge potential for reducing disease in many parts of the world. Yet we don't just need new technologies to improve this problem, we need a change of philosophy, to stop thinking of sewage as something to be disposed of and seeing it as an actual resource laden with nutrients and energy that we can use to make money and actually solve some of the problems the world is facing. After the break, we'll be meeting the people who believe recycling our human waste could also help feed the world in the future. Dealing with human waste is one of the biggest public health issues facing the world today. 2/5 of the world's population have nowhere to go to the toilet except on open ground. And that's a problem the world has to deal with. I'm in New York meeting Dr. Dulai Kone, the man in charge of sanitation programs for the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, to discuss his mission to reinvent the toilet and the way we deal with human waste. So far, we've been talking about this as a problem, as a source of disease and illness and something to be got rid of. And that's what we do, certainly in the developed world. We flush it. We literally flush this stuff away. We get rid of it, and I don't want to know anything what happens. I'd rather not know. Do you think that this problem is being taken seriously?
So far, I don't think the world have paid enough attention to this. What we know from the Western world as a flush toilet, it's like the gold standard. When we discuss this toilet problem, I mean, you can think why people don't just go and buy a flush toilet. 2/3 of the world population can do that simply because it's the most expensive solution.
Right. But the toilet uses a lot of water.
What we're going to, where we're bringing in innovation, is replacing the huge industries which make the existing flush toilet so expensive. We're going to replace this with box of small technology package beneath the toilet, which would be able to change every waste material which goes there into a commodity. So, and that commodity can be readily available for home to use or for companies who would like to collect this as a product that can be commercialized.
Not only do you think the system is wrong, you think the philosophy of that is wrong, that we think of this as waste material. It is not waste material. Explain why you feel so strongly about that.
We think of this as, as human waste because of the taboo. We don't have to. Everything we intake as human, what we consume, you can call it food or coffee or water, but for chemists, this is energy. And that energy that we intake, we would process what is needed for the body and release what is not needed. So everything we release contains an extra energy that we
There's still energy there.
There is still energy there that we can capture.
So your point, I think, is that it isn't waste.
It isn't waste.
It is actually useful stuff. Across the world, people are finding ways of dealing with human waste more effectively, but also using it as a resource, a way of making a profit. One wastewater facility in Oregon is using an innovative process that is not only helping to reduce environmental pollution, but also providing a sustainable source of nutrients for agriculture.
Well, Astara is a company that was formed in Vancouver, British Columbia. It's a university spin-off company. The University of British Columbia invented this technology that's especially good at recovering phosphorus from wastewaters. Phosphorus is a very interesting nutrient, and the reason we want to reuse it is because it's in limited supply. It's not abundantly available everywhere. It's only available in certain parts of the world. So we have to mine it out of the ground, turn it into fertilizer, and then grow food with it so we can all survive.
Phosphorus is one of the most important elements for plant growth and plays a crucial role in global food production as an essential component of modern fertilizers.
Well, if you can reuse that nutrient, you don't have to go dig it out of the ground and spend all that energy and use up those resources. And what Astara is really all about is being able to recover the phosphorus from these waters in a crystalline form, and turning that phosphorus into a highly valuable slow-release phosphate fertilizer.
In conventional sewage plants, phosphorus collects in the waste sludge, congealing into a concrete hard material that normally has to be removed and sent to landfill.
How all this came about was this group of researchers faced with a common problem. This material is a common nuisance in these wastewater treatment plants when it's scaling up pumps, valves, and equipment and pipes. So the researchers looked around and see ways that we could potentially recover this material.
During Astara's nutrient recovery process, as much as 85% of the phosphorus can be recovered. Recycling phosphate from existing sources in used water streams also works out cheaper than mining and then processing to turn it into fertilizer.
So the process starts out with this fluidized bed reactor, which is really at the heart of the system. These vessels are especially designed to receive the wastewaters and combine those waters with the right mix of chemicals to instantly form tiny crystals. And that's where we harvest the product, because we essentially are growing crystals until they're large enough so they're ready for harvest.
To achieve the crystallization process, magnesium chloride is added. In 5 to 20 days, the crystals are large enough to be collected.
So once the product is harvested from these reactors, it comes into this dryer. It is dried for about 10-15 minutes and then goes into a hopper where the product is screened into different size grades, and ultimately it's then bagged into these 1-ton sacks that we then sell to blender distributors of fertilizer.
The fertilizer created is a dry pearl-like pellet called crystal green. The competitive edge here is that it produces a high-grade, slow-release product that can be blended with commercial fertilizers.
As you can see, it's an extremely pure crystalline material. It's very hard, which means that if you blend it with other materials, it doesn't turn into dusty, powdery material. So, and it's a slow-release, 28% phosphorus fertilizer, which means that when you put it back in the ground, it doesn't leach out and pollute the environment, but rather it's a very environmentally friendly and efficient form of phosphorus fertilizer.
With a typical capital investment of $3 to $5 million for each plant, Astara estimate payback can be achieved in less than 10 years. The Rock Creek plant in Oregon is one of the first municipal nutrient recovery facilities to introduce this new process of phosphate treatment.
The principal issue that exists in the Tualatin Basin relative to nutrients focuses on phosphorus. Phosphorus was found to be a cause of algal mats of algae in the river, which when they decay removes the oxygen from the river and makes it unsuitable for fish. This plant has been designed to reduce phosphorus levels down to a very low level. The purpose of this process is to take used water and turn it into very, very clean water. In fact, so clean as to compare favorably to the U.S. drinking water standards before it's returned to the Tualatin River.
So what we're really doing here, we're taking phosphorus, this nutrient that is otherwise a form of pollution if it gets into our waterways, and then making it available for use in a very environmentally friendly and efficient way.
With Astara already operating 6 nutrient recovery facilities in North America and Europe, and with 3 more in development, they are hoping their technology could make a big difference to the way we deal with our human waste problem. Now, it might seem rather odd to take what we would normally put down the toilet and spread it on our fields to grow crops to put back in our mouths, even if there is a sort of odd circularity about all of that. But you've got to remember that human waste contains a lot of valuable energy and nutrients which can replace a lot of the phosphates, chemicals and fertilizers that we currently use on our crops. So, in the future, when you visit the toilet, you might be making your own little contribution to world agriculture instead of flushing it down the toilet. We see the toilet as just a thing in a small room, but actually it's the end result of a huge infrastructure. It may cost $50 to buy a toilet, but it will cost you $1 billion to put in the infrastructure needed to make that work. So this is a big thing for countries.
It is a big thing. What most people don't realize is once you push on the button or on that small handle, it's a huge industry. And this system was invented 200 years ago, and since then there haven't been any major innovation. And it's too expensive to go to scale. Most people can't afford this. We need to really rethink now a new solution, new technology, new toilet technology for our 21st century.
Public toilets like this one in Bryant Park in New York. We need humble ones and we need smart ones. Smart ones which don't use excessive amounts of water and don't pollute the water either. But more than new technologies, we need a change in philosophy to see human waste as something which actually has a value and not something just to be flushed away.